Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising 2026. Taurus, let's start with the most important event, and that is Saturn's transits. Usually, the most palpable and visible for us, because wherever Saturn goes, he's the hard tasks master. These are the most important lessons through its transits that we have to learn and qualities that we have to develop in us. And once you know what Saturn demands from you, even if it doesn't feel always so easy or your first choice, but you start noticing it in your everyday environment, you'd realize the purpose and meaning of it. And you realize that it's not by chance and life will not feel meaningless. So, Saturn is transiting the whole 2026 from February into your 12th house. Actually, it was for a couple of months, 2, 3 months in 2025 in your 12th house from, I'd say, June, July, August. Then it moved back into your 11th house, but now it's moving fully for the next 2 years into your 12th house together with Neptune. Saturn will stay there 2 years and a few months, Neptune for the next 12, 13 years, basically. But the influence of Saturn will be way more powerful and you would feel it much more strongly than of Neptune. Only when Saturn leaves, you start feeling Neptune because it's much more subtle energy, Neptune. And it's good that Saturn is coming first because what does Saturn do? It structures, it creates, it kind of cleans up the ground. And the 12th house is your subconscious, the where we carry our fears, our unprocessed feelings, even our psychological complexes stemming back from previous reincarnations. And it's very invisible to us. It's something that it's not on the surface for us. But it actually dictates this 12th house of the invisible and the subconscious dictates probably 90% of our behaviors without us realizing. So it's extremely important transit, a rare opportunity for your soul, and even it will be almost on a subconscious level for some of you, or for others will be more conscious work that you'll do, but to restructure the astral, to restructure all those feelings and process and traumas and buried memories. Basically, there is a term in esoteric science that only the body is structured, but we have other fine bodies, the astral, the mental, and the 12th house is very much connected to the astral body, that they're shapeless. And our purpose on earth for evolution, when we incarnate, is to give structure through our moral behavior, through our actions. And then we do it unconsciously to give structure, and it's like crystalline form, the astral body, to kind of arrange with this chaotic energy of the astral body, which is the feelings. Feelings for us are very chaotic. To the more you kind of learn to cope with feelings, the more you learn to have control and to release or to work with feelings, the more you give structure to your crystalline astral body. And once it's structured, this is when psychic abilities appear. This is when ability to feel what's coming in the future, to feel what others think, and so on. These phenomenal qualities that can unlock. And I'm not saying that Saturn and Neptune transiting your 12th house will necessarily unlock for you those abilities over the next years, but you will go quite a few steps forward in that process, whether you want it or no. So you see, it's kind of internal work. It's not about fireworks and changing the world. It's very quiet but important work. That is one of the most important works we do for our evolution. And Saturn will do this process slowly over the next couple of years. Uh, what it can do is some old memories might start coming. Um, this is the last house of Saturn before it moves to your sign, Taurus. It's done 26, 27 years that it transited Taurus. Last time was in the year 2000 approximately. And now it's coming back to Taurus from 2028. But before you start the new karmic cycle, which will be, there will be ending about karmic cycle first. So this is the ending while Saturn is transiting your 12th house. And you can notice themes of you becoming tired or bored with things or uninspired about certain, or maybe things that used to give you pleasure before, that used to give you meaning, that starts going away. And that's only natural. Don't beat yourself up. Don't say, what's happening to me? I'm usually so well together. But now, like, I just want to rest more, or I just want to retreat and be alone. This is very natural part of the process. That's why, especially people that are very active in the material world, that are very practical, organized, when Saturn enters the 12th house, especially from the ascendant, from the sun sign, yes, I've seen it as well. And from the moon sign also, it's strong. But from the ascendant, is very potent. But still, you can consider three. They start feeling like they're losing interest, or something that they've always done is losing its spark, or it's starting to disappear from their life, to fizzle out. And they start feeling like that it's their fault, but it's actually your subconscious preparing for a karmic restart, karmic reset, where a lot of, even especially when Saturn moves towards your ascendant or sun or moon towards Taurus, where suddenly things you'll be dealing, especially difficult things, which what Saturn represents, for years. It might have been 3 decades. It might have been something that might have started one Saturn cycle ago, two Saturn cycles ago, 6 years, depends how old you are, or maybe half Saturn cycle, 7 years, 14 years, or even if you're younger from the beginning of your life, something, some repeating issue and problem that you've had for many years. Once Saturn moves into your sign, those things will disappear, those worries, those problems, those repeating issues. And Saturn through the 12th house is preparing this ground. So you start kind of, it's an energy of introspection. I've just been going for 2.5 years, Saturn through my in my 12th house from the sun. So I can really give you the breakdown. So there is a lot of introspection that starts happening. And 12th house rules our dreams. And many times when we consciously don't pay attention to something, it keeps popping up in our dream life. So you might start dreaming, and Saturn is a repetition. So recurring dreams, for example, about something that happened at high school, usually something that you were hurt about, or some issue that you've had for many years, or maybe you can't take an exam. It's a sign like you've always felt unprepared for life, or maybe you've had a drug or some substance problem, and it's you start dreaming about that, or someone broke your heart, or some recurring dream. Often don't think like I'm going crazy, what's happening? Your subconscious is working, because many times we stuff the feelings down when we're too vulnerable to cope with them, and we stuff them into our subconscious, and it's stored there, and it creates chaos, and it creates self-sabotaging behaviors, and it creates addictions, and it creates vulnerabilities, which is all the sphere of the 12th house. But when Saturn comes and it starts slowly examining them, it's pushing you to examine them. Whether you want it or no, you can help it by consciously trying to do that, working with a psychologist. For example, for the first time in my life, over the last 2 years, I worked with a psychologist, and I chose a positive psychologist. So I can reorganize those negative patterns and behaviors that I've had all my life, and to recognize consciously the unconscious. And it was tremendously slow but helpful process. Took me a year and a half, to do that. And Saturn in the 12th house can be really good with Neptune as well, to address such matters, to reprogram your subconscious, to understand the deep reasons and motivations behind automatic actions and behaviors that you don't want to do anymore. And and Saturn gradually breaks down, Saturn slows down. So you look at the past, or maybe you dream about it, maybe you ruminate about it, maybe you discuss it with someone. There are different methods to do that. Or maybe you do it on your own. It can be a lone work you don't necessarily need, but because Saturn also rules your ninth house, you might naturally find a very good counselor, advisor, which is ninth house, to help you through this process, or even watching videos of some teacher, or maybe following some spiritual process. Ninth house is our spiritual processes, our um, kind of systems as well, that you can untangle those subconscious behaviors. And yes, it can feel like something is leaving your life, something is dying and going away. Yes, they can be endings. as well. Or because Saturn is a slow process, it can be going back to something, going back to it, leaving it, going back. But those topics will be part of you. And 12th house is very much about addictions. And I'm not talking necessarily just substance addictions. Addiction can be uh, any self-sabotaging behavior. And I can tell you what I worked on over the last 2.5 years. For me, it was waking up late. For me, and with addictions, is you realize that subconsciously associate something you don't want to do with pleasure. And I realized that since childhood, gradually, it's a gradual realization. Since childhood, I associated waking up early as punishment, going to school. And ever since, I've had such problem waking up. I'll not have energy all day. I'll stay late up. I associated staying late up as pleasure. And gradually, I started realizing uh, that this is not the case, you know? And gradually, this started shifting and my body reacting in a different way. It can be as simple as such an addiction. It can be addiction to, but it can be also addiction to more serious things, you know? And that's what happened to me when Saturn was transiting the 12th house through my ascendant, because I was a party girl. I liked my self-sabotaging behaviors, but I got pregnant. For 2 years, Saturn was transiting my 12th house. I was what they call baby jail. I couldn't drink, I couldn't smoke, I couldn't party, little kids. And I felt very restricted at the beginning. But this time gives you the ability, because Saturn is to restrict something, and 12th house is our self-sabotaging behaviors. And Saturn can do it usually even through external circumstances. For example, you have some health problem, that's why you can't indulge in some unhealthy self-sabotaging vices, or call it, addictive patterns. Or maybe you are in some way, like I was, pregnancy or children, or maybe some other external circumstance. You have to study for something, so you can't go and do those things. Or maybe something else. Maybe your internal self is feeling like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to give it a try. So it's trial and error for 2 years till you with something. It might be for you that not to watch your phone after 8 o'clock. This is an addiction, or not to. I do 8 hours on my phone some days, or maybe to lower it to 1 hour. We all have some addictive patterns. For someone, it can be impulsive shopping. It's something that you do every time you want to make yourself feel better because you associate it with pleasure, but at the same time, it creates negative consequences in your life. Doesn't have to be physical as well. So this is really powerful and rare opportunity to realize those patterns and to trial and error, try this way, adjust, try this way. And like, as I said, maybe some external influences forces you that you can't indulge in this behavior some period for maybe a month or a few months. And this gives you the space. This is what Saturn slowing down gives you the space to realize that by restricting that little, what you think is freedom to indulge in something, or my phone or computer games, or do whatever, it's like it's not that is kind of harming your life in some way. And to realize that actually you're more free without it. So there is this dichotomy, this contradiction. You limit yourself, or the universe limits you to do something that you usually like but harms you, that you associate with pleasure, but so self-sabotaging for some period. So you can realize that it actually makes you freer to be without it, that there is life on the other side without it as well. And don't think it's going to be an overnight miracle that you wake up and that's it. You one day you realize you don't want it, because it's Saturn. Stop and start, give yourself time and it will happen. And by the time Saturn moves out of your 12th house, you'd have a feeling that you understood it on a deeper level. And don't forget, Saturn rules your ninth house for you, which is higher knowledge, which is really understanding something in a very holistic, whole way, not just logically, not just in your mind, but and it's the knowledge. You find information or knowledge or teachings or some kind of a religious or spiritual or NLP, neutral lingo programming, or it might be some kind of a branch of knowledge or teacher, as I said, that you go into, which will help you achieve because the ruler of the ninth, this is knowledge, higher knowledge in the 12th, help you restructure your subconscious in a way that is liberating. And even if temporarily it feels like some kind of jail, because 12th house and Saturn there is the epitome of being restricted or jail in some way. This is ultimately that gives you further and bigger freedom and a very big evolutionary jump. As I said, the 12th house is your astral body. A lot of cleansing about karma can happen, reworking it. Saturn kind of brings to the surface those issues that you haven't worked with. Neptune washes them away, helps you do forgiveness. And Saturn helps you put boundaries and restrictions so you don't repeat that and discipline again. While Neptune allows you to forgive and let go. So those two can, on the highest level, this will be the best thing they do. Some of you can really have spiritual, gradual elevations, breakthrough, but it involves a lot of time alone. It can involve a lot of spiritual practices as well. And you can become very disciplined for any spiritual practices if this is something you're interested in. If you're on this channel, very likely you are. And especially if you follow some spiritual kind of knowledge, you can apply them in practice. Saturn is that energy. Apply some higher knowledge in practice gradually till it becomes part of your subconscious. You don't have to put effort in it, but you'll be turning. What Saturn helps you turn for your mental health. Because our modern word for the 12th house is mental health. The ancient word was astral, the invisible, but this is truly our mental health depends on our astro, psychological, and process. Our and Saturn will help us do the shadow work. All spiritual development starts with the shadow work first, and then realize shadow work is realizing the patterns, the mistakes, addressing them, reframing them, decomposing them. And then the spiritual revelations can come. Saturn does the hard work, then it moves to your first house for a new beginning for you. You're cleansed inside. It's not an easy process always. In the 12th house, there's fears and worries that might appear that you haven't had or that you didn't know existed, paranoias, sometimes in the extreme cases. But when it moves to the first house, you're free of that. And old problems that you haven't dealt with, when Saturn goes to the 12th house, start appearing. Like I was dreaming constantly, as I said, of someone who broke my heart and I haven't processed those feelings. Or self-harming behaviors, in a sense, not self-destructing, but self-sabotaging became very clear for me there. And then when Saturn moves to the first house, only Neptune remains in your 12th. So then it allows for some kind of a spiritual sublimation because Neptune is the natural energy of the 12th house. You first do the shadow work with Saturn there, the hard work. And as I said, you don't necessarily have to do it consciously. Sometimes it happens, external circumstances or internal, it internally is being done by your higher self to you. And you might have some heavy feelings and rememberings and realizations. And so that's mental health can feel a bit heavier during that time. But that actually is like a prolonged healing crisis. That's literally a chipping away from the crust and the mud that has gone on your soul for a whole Saturn cycle of 27, 28 years. Little by little, you're chipping away. You can do it with a psychologist, you can do it by some discipline, astrological knowledge, or just naturally in your dream state, as I said, or just by ruminating more, being, in a state of more self-observation, that's why spiritual practice is a fantastic one. The ruler of the ninth, Saturn transits the 12th. One can show up every day and observe their feelings, their thoughts, and the high vibration of Saturn is detachment, and realize that those thoughts and feelings are not you. The high vibration of Saturn is detached. And that's what happened to me recently with Saturn in the 12th house. Now, again, it came back. When Saturn was the last time in the 12th from the ascendant, I went on a plane. I was pregnant and I got a panic attack, claustrophobia. I felt like I don't have enough air, and the plane was on the ground. It was not even flying. So I stopped the whole plane. They they let me off and so on. So after that, for years, I had to, I couldn't go on a plane, and I couldn't work through that when Saturn was first, it unlocked it with Saturn in the 12th from my ascendant. This irrational phobia. I went to hypnosis, to whatnot for those 2 years, Saturn in my 12th house, but from the ascendant, it didn't work. But now it worked with Saturn in the 12th from my sun, 4 years down the line, five. And it just happened now. And I realized Saturn in my 12th did this. I was on a plane again, like shaking, and it's like, I need something. And I'm not afraid of the flight, but I'm the same situation repeated. So Saturn is about repetition that triggered my panic attack and claustrophobia. They closed the plane. They didn't put on air. It was 35 degrees inside. And they said, we can't take off because there is 30, we have to wait 30 minutes to an hour. And suddenly the whole world closed on me. My body started shaking. I couldn't breathe. It was nightmare. And I said, Saturn the 12th again, it triggered it. Is this gonna be what I always have? And those 50 minutes that we were on the plane gave me, so Saturn slows down and repeats, and some trauma to experience it in the 12th house. So it's not a pleasant experience always, but this gave me the ability to calm down and to rationally, because Saturn is a very rational planet, to think through it step by step. And I said, they would not leave us to die without air here. They would not, if we have to stay for 5 hours, they would open the door because they themselves won't be able to breathe. And step by step, I went through everything that caused my rational fear. And suddenly I could breathe again. It relaxed. And even though there was air, there was enough air, in my head, I thought there was an air. So I worked through that issue, and I know now I'm not going to be afraid in small space again. So this is something, I'm sorry to tell you so many of my personal stories, but I wanted to give you example how it can work, the Saturn in the 12th house. And this is due to, I even realized why it was happening. I saw a previous life where I was buried alive with a husband, some kind of culture it was, I don't know, where when one dies, they bury the other one. And that's where I unlocked these things. But even the seeing of the past life didn't help me until with Saturn in my 12th house, I had to do it the hard way, not the easy way. I had to do it to be in there in the exposure and to realize it's irrational fear. So don't freak out if I'm not saying you're going to develop phobias, whatever, but a lot of unprocessed feelings start coming. They might be even from past lifetimes with Saturn in the 12th house. That's what I wanted to say, to give you a chance to work through them in some way. And you do, when Saturn is there, you do research, you try different things and so on. So at the end, you're free from it. Now let's go. And as I said, once you do this restructuring, this discipline, so Saturn will help a lot of you to let go. And it will be with effort, but to let go. And some definitely there will be involvement possibly of some belief system that plays a role. Belief system, Saturn is the rule of the ninth house in the 12th. That helps you. It might be God, it might be, especially more traditional belief system, Saturn is that you spiritualize in a way. Because the rule of the ninth going to the 12th is about spiritualizing your beliefs, and they'll be dissolving of your old beliefs. The rule of the 12th in the ninth, dissolving them, examining them. Is this true? Is it no? Not true. So there can be some a bit of an existential, what is true for me, what is not true, existential kind of belief crisis in a sense. But again, you are decomposing the old one to create later on to be much more free. Once Saturn passes through the 12th house, such baggage. This is what Saturn is doing now, is cutting off the sandbags that have been holding you for your balloon to take off. Maybe for a whole Saturn cycle of 30 years, maybe longer even, maybe just for a few years. You're cutting off gradually, maybe like with a filing nail, the ropes of the sandbags one by one when Saturn is in the 12th house. You're doing very deep spiritual work that might feel like grinding sometimes, or like mental problems, or like negativity, but it's, unless you really start that negative mental chat. repeating it, but Saturn can intensify that so you become aware of it. That's why sometimes Saturn intensifies something so you become aware of it, and we stop it. Once you start being aware of it, might be 2 years to stop it, might be 3 years, but eventually you catch yourself more and more often and you stop that program running at the back of your mind, the subconscious program. So that's what you're doing it. You're reinstalling, taking off, deleting some programs during that times. Saturn is the cleaning of the subconscious. And when Saturn leaves your ascendant and it will your efforts leaves your 12th house in 2028 and goes into your first house, your efforts will become much more focused on building something new because you felt this conscious, subconscious, the past has left you. Now, Saturn is in the 12th house, the past is still there, you're eliminating it slowly and taking the best out of it as well. And when it moves to the first house, you're given the green light to start new beginnings, to work hard, to manifest in the material world more tangibly. Well, in the 12th house, sometimes it might feel like, okay, you want to do something new, but it's not happening, you know? Uh, it's more time like to research what are the new things you want to do those next 2 years. It's more time to look at what to leave and what you might want, and just to feel it, to understand it, not and little by little to start distancing yourself psychologically, emotionally from it. And you'll be realizing something is ending. It might be in personal life, it might be in psychological, emotional, I don't know. It needs to be very horoscope specific for me to tell you. Maybe some old beliefs are ending. Maybe Saturn also rules your 10th house, some old career or worldly responsibilities, maybe retirement for some of you, or maybe dissatisfaction with certain worldly career responsibility might be ending, or maybe ninth house is some course of education or belief system that is being unraveled gradually by you and is being tested, and you're kind of detaching yourself from it. I've even remember someone saying that when Saturn transited a 12th house and it ruled their, but they were like a Gemini ascendant that happened long ago, and Saturn still rules their ninth house. They said that during that time, they had they had for 20 years been something like some religion, I forgot, like shamanism or something that they got. And then they were in their 50s, and when Saturn, ruler of the ninth, went into their 12th house from the ascendant, they started detaching from that belief system. They realized it gave them a lot. It was necessary for them at that stage of life, but it was no longer giving them all the answers. And they went towards a more traditional, the traditional religion that they were born with. I think it was Catholic Christianity or maybe some other Christianity, Protestantism, but they went to, but the more spiritual version of it, like esoteric Christianity, that they, so this is one thing that can happen, some kind of a, gradual disappearing of some belief system in your, while you're going to something more ancient or more meaningful for you, or more traditional as well, which is Saturn. And once Saturn has moved from here, as I said, only Neptune remains in your 12th house. It's going to be there the next 2 years and then another 10 years. And Neptune, well, Saturn is the shadow work. Neptune is the kind of, how would you call that? Like the spiritual euphoria. Neptune is the spiritual revelations. Neptune is maybe even becoming psychic, if you have it as a given. If your soul is at this level, that's one of the probably the rarest opportunity in life, because it's Neptune in the 12th house heightens the intuition so much. Saturn first removes all the psychic rubbish that you distort any, and you can't trust your intuition because of irrational fears, subconscious programming, and so on. And if the 12th house, to tell you an esoteric method as well, is definitely psychic. If you can see with psychic eyes, which I can't, but I read and I know many, we carry entities with us. We do, even they can be transferred through sexual, or by being around people with certain entities constantly, or by indulging in a certain habit. We come again to addictions here, like watching porn. There's entities of sexual desire, And they look scary and they look unpleasant. They look like bugs or parasites. They're energetic, they're in your energetic fields. And they're ones of phone addictions and all kinds of stuff. Well, I've talked with many psychics, they can sell those things. And when Saturn is in this 12th house, that's why it's so hard to stop doing those things. This is when Saturn is what? Death with the scythe. You start cutting off those entities, starving them. Saturn is starvation, starving them. So that's what you're going to do. You know, there's entities of fears, there's entities of irrational fear, so poverty. There is entities, actually people that constantly have problems with money. I spoke with a certain psychic a few years ago, and she said, oh my god, there is like a special entity that is about always having financial problem, and it's usually picked up at birth because of previous incarnations. Maybe you were constantly starving or hungry or poor in past lives, so maybe your parents kept telling you and your ancestry picked up this entity. They're thought forms. They're thought forms that are formed and that they're just as real as the physical. Anyway, this is getting very esoteric. Sorry guys, I'm sure you want to know more about specific things, but that's what I'm getting to talk to you. And Saturn will start starving those entities and giving you freedom eventually. First, it might feel restricting, as I said, or some external circumstance that pushes you towards that, but ultimately it will give you more freedom. And Neptune, after that, will open up your channels to connect with very strong intuition, to know things, and maybe already some of you are feeling it because Neptune is already in your 12th house. It was for 4 or 5 months, and it's coming from February 2026 again. And again, as someone who just passed through Neptune through my 12th house, that's exactly what happened. Was been happening. I didn't trust my intuition. I started doing astrology with Neptune in my 12th house from the sun. And I was so uncertain at the beginning. But unfortunately for me, it was first Neptune. So it really, if you don't have Saturn cleaning up the subconscious first, only Neptune coming, Neptune is the other extreme. It can give you illusionary, you think, like you're certain about, spiritually, about having hunches, but they might be illusionary because of you haven't cleaned up the dirt below. And but gradually, and I'm so grateful for Saturn through the 12th house because I feel much more clearer now. I sense more clearer. But for you, first the cleaning comes, and then so you won't have those illusions of Neptune in the 12th house without Saturn having cleaned it. And because Saturn also gives you some discipline of the subconscious so you don't fall into addictions, because Neptune on its own in the 12th, without the help of Saturn or before Saturn, can really help us, but not help us. For 12 years, we might be dealing with our self-sabotaging behaviors, and Neptune doesn't have discipline. It's like you're forced to experience. You could just go into it. You go into it because you have no barriers. And those entities, as I said, 12 houses were entities attached to us. They're attached to us without any, discrimination, especially if we act less consciously. But Neptune also has the ability to heal and cleanse. And I think Saturn first does the proper cleaning and Neptune does the healing of the subconscious. And a lot of past lives can be remembered. But your intuition, I can tell you, the last 14 years of Neptune in Pisces, now my body physically now reacts. I know when something is truthful now. So and with Saturn and Neptune, the next couple of years, there'll be a lot of secrets, a lot of deep realizations you experience, a lot of people sharing or you understanding deep secrets. And it's on a more material level. Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house can be a time when you are studying something, researching. Very good for research, for preparation for something. Very good if you're doing some kind of a maybe PhD or whatever, and you need prolonged time isolated to study, to research. Very good time to study astrology and other metaphysical fields, or any kind of science fields as well, or even to learn coding. This 12th house is kind of, you restrict your freedom a little bit in isolated space for something, and for you, Saturn rules the 10th house because of a career, because of studies, the 9th house, higher knowledge, because of to develop virtues of some sort, maybe one of the stimulation to stop bad habits. Self-sabotaging behaviors is because you want to progress in life. The ninth house is progress. The ninth house is self-growth, becoming a better version of yourself. That's what will motivate you to remove the negative subconscious behaviors and get to the root of them. Saturn, ruler of the 10th and the ninth in the 12th, for some of you can really mean, and those are the processes I talked about. They'll be happening in the background, but some of you can really mean you're spending more time isolated or alone because you're studying something. You're pre-qualifying, ruler of the ninth and 12th. Or you're spending more isolated time because you're working on some project, something connected with work. Ruler of the 10th in the 12th, 10th is career. And you're sacrificing maybe some of your freedom or maybe some of your social life in more isolated time to prepare some big project. Like when Saturn was transiting my 12th house from the ascendant, I started doing a project. And I was like, it's gonna be ready, you know. It wasn't ready because Saturn is also career work. Uh, it's only ready now that Saturn is coming out of my 12th house from the sun. So it's some kind of a preparatory stage, maybe working behind the scene on something. Saturn is work, working behind the scene on something. And then when Saturn moves into your first house, uh, from the sun or ascendant on the moon, you can bring it into the world. So 2, 3, 4 years from now. So sometimes great things take time. And you learn that. Another thing with Saturn in the 12th house is, yeah, if you're a criminal, let's say you have criminal, you know someone who is Taurus rising, they have criminal activities. Well, now it's kind of the time where they pay off the karma. Very often, so many times I've seen Saturn in the 12th from Sun, Moon, or Ascendant is if someone has done criminal activity or anything illegal, they go to jail, they get caught, or if they get drinking DUIs or whatever it's called, because I'm not saying that's criminal, but still, like, you get your for your addictive behaviors or self-sabotaging behaviors or criminal behaviors or kind of vices, you get what you deserve. Like I knew a guy who was cheating a lot on his wife. And for 10 years, she didn't find out. Saturn entered his 12th house and she left him. So you get what you deserve. And don't beat yourself up. I mean, everyone can improve. This gives us a big lesson, and you can be a wonderful person and still get some things that are unwanted because we've all made mistakes. And if we haven't repented about them or realized them earlier, that's when it hits us, the consequences. Because this karma needs to be cleaned. So you can be given a new chance when Saturn enters through the 12th house. Now, if you've also harmed others unconsciously or consciously in some way, somehow Saturn to the 12th can subliminate, especially with the Neptune, which is plots, by some kind of hidden enemies coming up. And we don't always get returned karma through the same person they hurt us back. It can come from another person, but if you had this, everyone, maybe you did in a past life as a child, maybe you were laughing at kids at school. It can be something as innocent as that. It can be everyone's hurt others in some way. So now, because 12th house, the house of karma, Saturn transiting through there with Neptune can be like, okay, this karma needs to be resolved. And if you never kind of, if you're someone who is naturally self-observing, and what is that called? Like they observe what they do wrong and they say, okay, I'm not going to do it again. Saturn to the 12th house is wonderful. It's a breeze. If you're very self-introspective and not just introspective, but when you do a mistake, you try not to repeat it again. And you've been trying at least. There is some, I'm not saying it's good to have guilt or shame, but if you've been doing that, it's like the universe knows you're trying to correct yourself. The really harsh moments of Saturn in the 12th house is if you unapologetically keep doing something over and over without having tried, then the universe says, okay, there is no chance but to use a heavy-fisted manner. Okay, you're gonna go to jail for drink driving, or you're gonna, you might lose a husband, or your children might be taken from you because of those bad habits you've had, or maybe you've been bad mouthing and talking behind others and you keep doing that, now you're going to see what it feels to be on the receiving end. And you get like some conspiracy against you from your colleagues or your friends, and they kind of uh, but usually, most people that are watching this channel, I mean, no one is perfect. They are on the path of self improvement. And every time they've seen such behaviors, they're trying to correct it. They're trying to. So, for me, I mean, there was very little hidden enemies that I experienced through Saturn in the 12th, from Sun, from the Ascendant. These are the most recent. If my hidden enemies was myself. So that's what I was struggling with. But yeah, when Saturn was through my ascendant, yes, I definitely, there was some hidden enemy that appeared. And actually, a couple of times it happened right on the cusp of the 12 from the ascendant. I realized someone was doing behind my back something that was not right. Um, and a plot basically against my business. And that was the closest person that I trusted all my business with, all my work with. And that hurt a lot. And I remembered I tried to do the same to someone else when I was 20 something years old. And I didn't do it because I realized at the time that that's not the path I want to do. But and I remembered, and actually I'm realizing more now, and I forgave this person. And I stopped hating them and saying, oh, poor me, and she's an evil person. So sorry, I'm getting very personal. I don't know why. But I just want to give you as many stories as possible to see how the 12th house works. And this time when Saturn was through my 12th house from the sun, I did not have anyone betray me or do anything like that. At least I haven't found out yet. Saturn has 2 more months there. Knock on wood. But you see, people that are kind, good, that they don't have a heavy karmic load, Saturn to the 12th house is actually a moment of rest. So that's how I felt it in the last 2.5 years. I felt more like resting. I felt more, because Saturn also rules the 10th from my sun. I kind of started unfocusing from astrology. You see, I haven't been doing as many videos because I need more rest. I needed time to prepare something behind the scenes. So I've been working on a project behind the scene for the last actually 7 years. And now when Saturn went through the 12th again from the sun very intensely and it's wrapping up. And I kind of detached a little bit from my normal being too visible, being too much in the public eye, the 10th house, like for you it might feel. So you prepare the birth of something new. But another way it can play is that you might have some important work to do in a foreign country. Saturn is work, 10th house is career, 9th house is studies. So maybe some of you might be studying in a faraway country, or studying something spiritual of this sort, or studying on 12 houses medicine or healing or some kind of science research or psychology. Or they might be just studying abroad. One way it can manifest. And there comes the sense of isolation of the 12th house. Yeah, of course, you're abroad. Or you might be working in 12th house fields. If you have a 12th house field of career, actually, it's not necessary to have disappointment or dissolving attachment. If anything, it can be a very thriving period because the ruler of the 10th career in the 12th, what the 12th house careers? You might be working now for the next 2, 3 years, focusing more in spiritual fields, in research fields, very good for that, in hospital environments, in medical fields, in psychological fields, rewiring the subconscious. And funny enough, this is a remedy. You're not going to be going so much through your own psychological battles and chipping away, but because you work in it, it's you become like it manifests through you as it is, because maybe you're working as a psychologist or with sick people, 12 houses, hospitalized people, people with mental health, people that need help, or maybe in some charity organization. It's great if, or NGOs, non-government organizations that are doing, yeah, they might be doing something behind the scenes or out of the public eye, or you might be working in a crime or syndicate. I don't know. You might go that route. It's but because of Saturn there, and Saturn is very cruel in Aries, within 2 years there can be repercussions for that. Or some non-government organizations that tries to help refugees, or you might be working to help refugees in some way. if or you might be even a politician, because 10th house is someone in the high position that is working to help others or doing shady deals, 12th house. But those shady deals can really be exposed when Saturn there. Anyway, um, but look at that. I want to tell you, after all that speak about Saturn in your 12th house, and this will be the longest of Saturn in the 12th house was the most important. I want to tell you that this process will be much easier for you than it's for most people. Why? Because Uranus all the time is making sextile to Neptune in your 12th. So is Pluto. And there is tremendous help. Uranus is divine wisdom, Pluto is divine willpower. You align your willpower somehow to God's one, and your wisdom, you keep getting solutions, the right course of actions, the right knowledge, the right systems to work with to help you resolve the old, let it go, to end, to finish endings, to work or prepare behind the scenes on some project, to heal the subconscious and so on. Or as I said, you might have some very important work to do in faraway places, and maybe you're working hard to require citizenship there or something. That's the other manifestation. And Uranus and Pluto, let's think about this bisextile that will hold till 2028. Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn, pretty much by sign. In 2026, for sure, Saturn as well. This is incredibly positive combination. Incredibly. We went back to 3,000 years ago and we couldn't find such a harmonious combination between Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. We found when they were in the same signs, but not exactly the same, like Pluto was in, but they were never in this amazing bisextile for 4 or 5 years like now. And it was a very prosperous time in Egypt sometime during some Amenhotep somebody. Now you're gonna have it, and we're having it already. So this is like a divine dispensation of incredible help. As I said, like the angelic hierarchies that God works through and influences. We're actually every human is part of, is created by angelic hierarchies. They are within you. It's going to be sending signals, and for you, Taurus, very strong signals to help the spiritual, the healing side, the 12th house, to help you develop your intuition, to help you find the right choices and understand the reasons, the subconscious reasons for your traumas, and to help you heal addictions and self-sabotaging behaviors and old unhealthy ways of thinking. They might be even like an addiction to poverty, addiction to, it is a thing. As I said, those entities. So there will be a huge help. But let's look on more practical side. Pluto and Uranus, the helping influences. So this process will happen much more naturally, not so painfully, with a lot of help. But who helps? Pluto and Uranus are in Artha houses, what we call like houses that are practical, work, money, Pluto 10, career, authority figures, Uranus second, which is family and money. Family can be helping with that. Some powerful authority figure can be helping with that. Or maybe because Uranus and Pluto will be in those two houses pretty much as long as Neptune will be in your 12th house. So something changes in your material circumstances starting from this year very intensely. Maybe better job, maybe better money, maybe some financially that helps you, allows you to heal the addictive side, to heal this 12th house energy, the addictive, the self-sabotaging behaviors. It maybe gives you space to breathe because it's in air signs. The material circumstances of your life start aligning and gives you space to breathe. So you can allow this healing to do, because when we're in fight or flight, we can't fight, like fight or flight. You're surviving, you're struggling every day for money, whatever. You can't heal the body. Those subconscious feelings are not allowed to be healed and released in it. You see, only sometimes you might have been for 10 years in a very tough situation, like when I was like a refugee. Basically, I was illegal in the UK, and it was survival. I've slept in parks, I was homeless, I would have to work like whatever job I can get, wash plates, that many times go to work and not get paid, because that's how they would use people. They tempting for 7 days and they say, sorry, we don't want you, we don't. And fight or flight. And the moment my life became comfortable financially, finally, after 10 years of this nightmare, that's when all my health issues and fear and psychologically my mind relaxed and all the fears, like all the mental imbalances started coming and crying and emotionality. And I'm like, I was such a tough cookie before. And why is that all coming to the surface? But the soul needs to relax. The body needs to feel like it's not being chased by dragons and tigers for healing to start. And the healing took around 7 years. Nothing happens fast on earth. You know it, you're Taurus. And Neptune and Saturn will give you those 7, 10, 12 years to do this healing. But somehow as well, Pluto, 18 years in your 10th house, Uranus, 8 years, your financial and material circumstances over the next 7, 8 years will get empowered. Pluto in the 10th house. Believe me, because I'm Aries, I went through exactly the same. Pluto was in Capricorn for me. Uranus was in Taurus for me because I'm, and uh, Saturn was in Pisces. But for many years, Pluto and Uranus were in my money house and my career house for the last 16 years, basically. What happened? That's exactly when my financial problems disappeared. I became financially independent. Uranus in the second house over the next 8 years will give you freedom, financial freedom, maybe self-employed, some alternative method of making money. But that's it. It's about a more authentic method. Even sometimes money can come in big patches. It's not consistent. Like now, I don't have every month 30,000 or 5,000 or whatever you want to call it. Uh, every month, 1 month, I can make 3,000, another one I can make 50,000. It's kind of Uranus like that. But because Uranus is in great aspect and it loves the sign of Gemini, with Pluto, it's in a great aspect. With Neptune for years, it will be good. You'll be free from financial obligations and you'll become free, like financially independent, while Pluto in your 10th house will be basically empowering you to find more truthful career, to come into your power for your mission, what you're here to do. If you're someone who is retiring, somehow your circumstances, maybe you discover a new passion for a new mission or career. Maybe somehow you will become financially independent as well. I don't know how it will align for you, but it will. And this financial stabilization and not only stabilization, you walk into your authority, Pluto in the 10th house. Everyone has a God-given mission. For some, it might be to be a mother. For some, it might be to be like the most important mission, a work that we're here to do. It comes in the 10th house. And Pluto absolutely does not tolerate if you're on the false part. Pluto is like ruthless. It will put you on the right path. And it will help you find, and once you're on the right path, career-wise, vocation-wise, or with your actions, even if you're retired, you might join some kind of a Aquarius, like helping society, going protesting if you want. 10th house is actions, not only career. Might be helping in some humanitarian, Aquarius thing as well. Who knows? So part of companies, organizations, or your own business. Once you're on the right path, which Pluto, whether you want it or not, will put you, which means over the next 18 years, which means that if you're on the right path, you first, like when Pluto entered for me, the 10th house, I was on the wrong path. I was in a high position, but in nightclubs, that's not my path. I was making very good money, but nightclubs, I lost that job with no opportunity to get it back. Like Pluto can crumble your career if you're not on the right path. And I was forced, Pluto is forcing energy to go into astrology because that was the only other thing I knew. I'm so glad I was forced because then over those 14, 15, 16 years of Pluto in the 10th house, I gained incredible power. I was self-power, self-belief, because that's what Pluto wants to empower you by aligning you to the right position. And a lot of you will gain as a Taurus very high positions of power and authority over the next 18 years. Trust me, with Pluto in the 12th house, it will happen. And positions of authority, or like I hate having a boss over me. And for me, the best thing was to be self-employed. So Pluto gave me, I became Pluto in the 10th house. I'm the power. I always felt myself as humble. I don't have power. I'm nobody. Pluto through the 12th house, through the 10th house, even though it will square you, but that's how you find your strength. You are called to show your power to the world. The 10th house is the most visible house. You'll be called and you'll show it. So you'll see, even though sometimes it can feel very, but going back to Saturn in the 12th, so what is helping you? Maybe your financial circumstances, or maybe your work and career and money somehow will direct you towards those 12th house activities. We said like NGOs, spiritual work, even 12th house is film and music industry, the artistic industry, that you do some hard work there, Saturn, but very, very successful as well, eventually. Ah, wow. What else? Let me see. I had some notes. Every time before I do a new sign, I really go meditate. Just my meditation is active. I think, I ruminate, I try and remember stories of other people, look through, talk with people. So what else did I work? One's work and material duties might be focused on 12 house pro. Yeah, we did that charitable project, research foreign places. Oh, I forgot to say, even though Saturn in Aries is a bit cruel because it's in its fall for Taurus people, especially Taurus rising or in the moon, Taurus Saturn is yoga karaka. What does it mean? It becomes a benefic, even though it still will give its good stuff as a benefic through hard work, through effort. Because Saturn rules two very fortunate houses from Taurus, the ninth house of divine inspiration, the 10th house of action, righteous action. So that it becomes the combination for you, Saturn, of righteous action. Ninth house is righteousness, morality. 10th house is action. So you as Tauruses are naturally gifted, especially Taurus rising people, because this is usually, and moon as well, but I would say from the sun, righteous action through doing something, through your career usually and so on. And so you do the right thing. That's what I'm telling you. And you have very good results in this 12th house, whether you're doing some art, whether you're doing some spiritual work, whether you're healing yourself from addictions, whether you're, I don't know, in a foreign land trying to build a business there, whether you're working behind the scenes on some project, you do fantastic work because Saturn is your yoga karaka. Whether you have mental health issues, you'd eventually have great results as well through righteous actions. And for you guys, you need, because Saturn is the rule of the ninth, prayer, spiritual work is very important, even in some practical ways, because for Taurus, the ruler of the ninth being Saturn, it's kind of like go help someone in need rather than sit and do mantras. And you can do that as well. But like Saturn is, let's get our hands dirty. Damn that. Let's spiritual work can be like sweeping the floor of your neighbor because she can't walk or she has problem. That's spiritual work. And especially for Taurus rising or strong Taurus people, they see it as I'm gonna do something good or some, for someone in need. So that can be it as well. Okay. And one last thing about Saturn in your 12th house. This can mean for some of you, Saturn rules the ninth house, which is teaching. 12th house is kind of some kind of retreats or secluded, sheltered environments, maybe teaching and guiding or even working in hospitals, in prisons, orphanages, refugee camps, or abroad, or retreats, 12th house, in secluded kind of environment, shelter, or even teaching during your sleep. You won't believe in the last 2, 3 years how many people told me, and I sleep kind of restlessly with Saturn transiting my 12th house. I forgot to mention that it can bring up some sleep issues for some of you, Saturn through the 12th house. First time when it transited from my ascendant was because I had little children. Of course, sleep was totally disrupted. I was exhausted all the time. Second time was because now through my son, it's much better, much easier. But people tell me, I think at least 10 people contact me and saying, Lada, you appeared to my dream and you told me things and it helped me resolve a problem. Told me what to study, told me what to read, told me what to do. I'm like, what? Is that why I sleep? I feel like when I wake up after Saturn through my 12th house, this last 2, 3 years, like I wake up a bit beaten down and I'm like, all right, I've been teaching astrally, who knows? But some people do that. Many souls actually do that. And so in your sleep, or even teachers of guidance appearing, ninth house guidance in your sleep, someone telling you what to do, and very spiritual, mystical experiences of some sort. And the ninth and the 10th house are connected to the father. So is the planet Saturn. When it transits the 12th house, you, for 2, 3 years, you work on dissolving if you have authority figure. If you didn't have a father, maybe you have some resentments if he left, or maybe you have something you haven't forgiven, or maybe your dad was an alcoholic or was abusive, working through that issue. If you didn't have at all a father, if a mother was the figure of the father, working through those issues of the authority figure in your life. And for me, oh boy, I lived in Bulgaria. I haven't lived in Bulgaria for 25 years, and suddenly I'm back here. I had to work through those issues in the last 2 years with my dad. All the issues I never resolved cropped up. And those issues was something as simple as it really triggers me. And every time he would trigger me, sometimes I would react, sometimes I would notice and stop myself and not react in the normal way. Instead, make a joke and laughing, he'll start laughing instead of starting argument, resentment, not talking to each other. And it would appear. We've had in the last 2 years periods of 2, 3 months we would not talk to each other. And then I would say, okay, I need to resolve that because Saturn is stop and go, stop and go. By the end of this process, you'd have resolved the karma, some kind of detachment from father figure. In extreme cases, there can be loss of father figure or detachment from your reactiveness to the father figure, or detachment from the karma that the father figure has created. Because our parents kind of, we all blame them, they fuck up our life. It, to an extent, it's true, but it's because we react to those things and you kind of coming to terms with this and healing it. So the father karma, and the father karma is also the career karma. We keep coming to the same. For you in particular, because Saturn also rules the traditional ruler of your 10th house, your worldly success. The more you resolve the karma with the father, and that matters for everyone, not even if you're Taurus, but particularly for Taurus. For Taurus, Saturn is the ruler of the ninth and 10th, which are connected to the father, transiting through the 12th house. It's if you sort out your feelings towards the father, forgiveness, even if he has passed away or whatever, or detachment, so you don't react with resentment and anger, non-reactive, or you don't repeat the same patterns. This is what Saturn through the 12th house will help you do. Then your career really takes off. I can promise you. And with Pluto in your 12th, in your 10th house, and Saturn moving into your first house from 2028, big things are coming for you. If you're still in the work field, for your career, for your own authority, that you'll achieve big things after this cleansing period, healing period. Pluto, as I said, can put you on the top. Now, let's go to a lighter topic. Jupiter. Where is Jupiter for you, Tauruses? Jupiter will be till July, pretty much 7 months, no, 6 months. Was it? Till the 30th of June. So the first 6 months. And actually, it entered your third house from, 1, 2, 3. Entered your third house in June 2025. So you already started maybe feeling some of those influences. But it will stay till July in your third house. Now that's very supportive. Very supportive. For example, it's good for relationships because it's making a trine to your seventh house of partnerships, improving a marriage or business partnerships going well, or collaborations with others, or just Jupiter in the third house is good for making bridges, finding like-minded people, contacting, expanding your social circle in some way. I just had it through my third house from the sun, and I made a lot of new friends, the moms, the moms around from my school, but I love them. I've been so socially isolated because, as I said, those Saturn in the 12th house makes us feel more socially isolated, but you have a chance before Jupiter moves from the third house to make some social contacts, new and ones that uplift you, you know, so you're not fully isolated. And to be honest, it hasn't been so hard, this 12th house Saturn. I just want to give you the hands up because Saturn's been in good aspects, Uranus, Neptune as well, so it will be for you. So don't make a too big deal of it. But with Jupiter, yes, actually your social circle can expand with new friends and uh, because Jupiter also rules your 11th house of friendships, going in your third house of everyday connections, to become a bit closer with others, like sibling-like connections. But Jupiter also rules your 8th house. And this is sudden reversal, sudden changes. So they give me like sudden changes, sometimes like shakeups in friendships or everyday communication. So with your siblings, maybe something suddenly happens in the life of a sibling. For example, how it went through me, a few shocks. But it's like, for example, like when I had Jupiter in the third house before, last year, 2025, something very good happened to my sibling. He got a baby. So they told us they were pregnant, so something good, because Jupiter is something good, can happen in your siblings' life, through friends of yours, through colleagues or mates. Third house is all of those things. You can receive good news about stuff. They can help you. If you have associates, they can help you as well. But because for you, Jupiter also rules the 8th house, this can be like a sudden surprise somehow. But out of the sudden surprise, there's silver lining for some reason, because it is Jupiter, and Jupiter is very beneficial in Cancer. There can be new interests. So now look how this is helping. Saturn is reprogramming your subconscious, especially if there is an addiction. Addiction takes the pleasure out of everything, and instead of doing 99,000 things, you focus your whole life in one thing, whether it's a substance, whether it's a behavior, whether it's some compulsive thing, and it sucks out the joy out of other stuff, and you kind of close your whole life that there is nothing else but this thing or a few things you might be addicted. And like, oh, if I don't have my cigarette, nothing else is enjoyable, whatever. But Jupiter in the third house opens your mind to the world around you, and suddenly you start getting curious, more interested in what others are doing, in new hobbies. Third house in ancient astrology rules interests, new things you want to do, learning a new things. Like with Jupiter in my third house, I started painting. It just passed like recently. Started doing like painting by numbers. I started skiing. I started met new friends, and even my psychologist explained it because I went through the same process just before you. That's why I keep giving. She says, "Why are you so focused on one distinct when there are millions of stars?" You riding, we started bicycling, you riding bicycles, you cooking, you doing that. You can get joy, which is Jupiter, from a lot more everyday things. And you open your mind, because the third house is your conscious mind, about a lot more fulfilling things. You become interested in life again. And this is kind of helping with Saturn in the 12th house, that you don't get too isolated, that you don't get too into your own world. Plus, Saturn is trying to cleanse your subconscious of attachments, remember? And Jupiter allows you to open up to new things that are interesting, healthier, because Jupiter is a kind of like a sattvic, good planet that brings good things to you. So good health, wholesome interests. So it can be, again, also confirmation. Third house is about learning. It's aspecting the ninth. Very good time to study, to learn something, class, course, skills. And Saturn in the 12th house is great about researching and internalizing knowledge, as the rule of the ninth and the 12th, to internalize it on a deep soul level as well. So you become very kind of philosophical with Saturn in the 12th, but with Jupiter also you're interested in the world around you. One thing I noticed with Jupiter through my third expanded my use of social media. To from 3-4 hours to 7-8 hours, not social media, but being on the phone, researching and so on. But you're curious. And I even consider I started watching more TV with Jupiter in the third house. I discovered the joys of watching TV. Third house is TV, whatever. And it's better to do that than to do some unhealthy habit, than, unless you do unhealthy habits when you watch TV. But for me, it's like, oh, The Bachelor is coming. Today I'm gonna do a healthy dinner and watch it and not do something else that is not healthy. So to open you to more interest, the life with Jupiter in the third house overall is more interesting. But also, Jupiter is truth, and the eighth house is hidden secrets, is taboos, is things that is shocking. So you might find yourself speaking out things that can shock others, or speaking out the forbidden truth, basically. You're not going to be, let's say, politically correct so much. If you see something that smells like fish, you would speak it out. Third house is communicate, because it's very strong now. Your intuition about if there's something dodgy. Eighth house is like, is there some manipulation there, some insincerity, some backhand motives, and this comes into your consciousness, and you address it and you speak it out. So yeah, you can be disrupted in communications by speaking out the truth, but that's very helpful for others. Or you might find out some news, third house, that brings opportunities for you, but that brings some kind of secret or to you as well. Or eighth house is the cult knowledge that is not necessarily, very in the mainstream, forbidden conspiracy. You might read a lot, study a lot about such things, or communicate and speak with others about those things with Jupiter. You might become a voice to other. Again, third house is to be a voice, to publish, to message, to communicate about, to write about, to make videos or blogs about hidden things, or about forbidden things, or about conspiracies, or about uncomfortable topics like sexuality and taboo sex and so on. Anything eighth house like that, we're like a bit, we shouldn't talk in public about that. Uh, you wouldn't mind, and you'd be like, okay, this, I need to speak this out. And actually, it can be beneficial to you because this is Jupiter. Also, Jupiter is good for, in the third house, let me see my notes, finding out secrets, delivering secrets, having to keep secrets. Eighth house ruler Jupiter in the third of your conscious mind. And you can discover some secrets that, are very, or maybe read literature that is like spies, or about ancient mysteries, or about astrology. This is beautiful combination to study astrology, the eighth house, the occult, the forbidden, psychology. And Saturn in the 12th helps with, research and so on. So very good time. You see Saturn and Jupiter in falling houses. We call them the third, the 12th, the sixth, and the ninth houses of knowledge, of learning. So very good time, especially till July, studying and such kind of research of any sort. And third house is how you think. Eighth house is ruler Jupiter's transformation. There will be total transformation of the mentality and the self-talk. Third house is how do I talk daily on myself? And many times this third house is actually activated by the 12th house of, the subconscious. Maybe your parents told you, maybe as a child, someone told you you were fat or whatever, and you keep talking to myself, oh, I'm fat. Oof, when do I lose this? And now you become aware with Saturn in the 12th, where it's stemming from, the subconscious. And you become aware of those self-sabotaging behaviors, and Jupiter makes it much easier for you to reprogram your mind with positive self-talk. Or even with, you know, uh, sometimes there is this binatural, because third house is listening, and that's helped me a lot. I did a lot of affirmations with Jupiter in my third house, Saturn in the 12th, of things that I consider difficult. I would affirm them as easy. Like, for example, sports, I had very strong resistance to working out. But for you, it will be even easier than it was for me, because Jupiter is exalted, is the ruler of the eighth house of transformation, death and rebirth, quick spinning cycle of your mentality. And you can do it consciously by putting affirmations that are right for you. And I was like, I'm an athlete. I love working out. Now I can't wait to work out. It took 1 year of work, but I reprogrammed the subconscious with Saturn in my 12th house. And I listened to Biorno things on YouTube. You put it And it either does affirmations, so some noise where there is affirmations that are very hidden, but your subconscious gets it, you know. And my self-talk started changing. So this is very good time to change that you talk to yourself positively and that you start speaking words with others that are positively affirming about them and yourself. So Saturn does the subconscious programming. Jupiter in the third house of conscious mind allows you to open up to new possibility and do the conscious programming. All right. And you can also, your words, you'd feel how much your words have power. Eighth house is one of the houses of power, how it can impact others. So choose your words wisely because you have Jupiter now here. Jupiter is a very wise planet, but somehow for those following 7 months or whatever, your words can be very impactful to others as a ruler and transformational. You can say something to others or to yourself, and it can transform your whole mentality and life. And even if you're saying uncomfortable truths. Also, Jupiter in the third house says it's so you can travel. It makes trine to your ninth house, third house with the short trips, long trips. You can travel to foreign or neighborhood cities. And like with Jupiter in my third house, I went crazy. I was like, every weekend, let's go here, let's go skiing, let's go. My husband was like, can we just stay at home? And the kids were like, can we stay at home on the weekend? I'm like, no, let's travel. Like you get this excited about traveling and exploring other places and or just even your local environment. I started going out much more often than not. Third house is learning. Learning will be much easier to you. We spoke about it. Like I've tried learning skis before, but I got it on one time now. I've tried before doing other stuff. I got it much easier with joy. Learning becomes joy. What else is the third house? Siblings, relatives. We said about that. Vehicles, transportation. I don't know, something around that as well. Uh, Business and communications is the third house. So there is accelerated, Jupiter can, accelerated contacts, connecting. So till July is good to build bridges, connect with new people. If someone writes to you an email and says, I saw your work, let's talk. Don't turn down such opportunities. Of course, use discrimination as with everything, don't go to. But there will be some very good opportunities that come to you. And I met some really good associates during Jupiter in the third house that and people that not very close friends, but for you it can even be close friends that they become because Jupiter rules the 11th. But it can be about even having gains through them because the 11th house, the house of gains, Jupiter is the ruler in your third house, making some contacts that became gainful or learning something through which you can be gainful financially, materially, or in social status in some way. So do build those bridges. All right. And then Jupiter is starting to move from 30th of June, so the beginning of July, into your fourth house. It's also very strong in Leo. It likes Leo. It will be there basically the last 6 months of 2026 and the first 6 months of 2027. So one whole year. Now, Jupiter in the 10th house will kind of make life a bit more dynamic. Before that was more mental. In the fourth house, it's a cardinal house of action, and but where will the good things come to you from? The good things start coming from family. You might start enjoying spending time home more. Like Jupiter is right now in my fourth house. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm absolutely enjoying being. It's like a warmth in my stomach and cooking. Fourth house is domestic things, cooking, family. I'm really enjoying being a housewife. I'm really enjoying it's I had problems before that with my kids, and now like I've kind of got the knack. I'm getting the knack of parenting. It's getting easier. It's getting enjoyable, so, or even becoming a parent for some of you, Jupiter through the fourth house. This is the house of parents, or healing a relationship with mother figure in particular, or the mother side of the family, or something good happening in the extended family as well. Third house is siblings, fourth is siblings plus relatives and so on as well, and your own family. You can improve relationship, or maybe the circumstances of your mom will improve. when Jupiter entered my fourth house, my mom was so sick for a year before that. She was having Pluto opposition her sun. She was getting flu after flu after flu, and back problems. And Jupiter entered my fourth house from the sun. Both my parents are like fire now. No health issues, everything is okay. They're watching the kids. I'm getting so much support from family with Jupiter in the fourth house. So you can receive support from family or something for whatever you're going through. Uh, it might not be with children, it might be with whatever you're going through. From July onwards, you can start relying on your family. Another big thing is that with Jupiter in the fourth house, we got a real estate now, a flat in another town. So it's about expanding property. And we're decorating it, and everything is going so smoothly, no stress whatsoever. I've tried decorating a flat with Saturn in the fourth. It's another matter. From the moon, it was like stressful. It was a lot of hard work. It turned out great, but with Jupiter, ooh, breeze. But yeah, whatever changes you want to do, and don't forget, Uranus rules your eighth house of changes. There can be some change in your family. Uranus is birth and death, like a birth, a birth member of the extended or your personal family, like a birth in the family, death sometimes, but eighth houses is inheritance as well. And the rule of the eighth and the fourth, they can be inheritance of land or property. And it's nice because it's Jupiter and it comes easy for you with no problems. Possibly, hopefully, not through death, you know. And it's not only your mother or father death. As I said, this is all the ancestors we've had. You might find out some uncle left you land. If you have a naturally strong Jupiter in your horoscope, you definitely can come into some inheritance now. You can also expand home, property, real estate. You can eight houses, mutual finances with a partner. You can invest money in land, in property, or in your family in some way, or in vehicles. In Asian astrology, fourth house is vehicles. Yeah, so what else it's also the emotional happiness. Fourth house is the house of feeling happy within you. And that's really helping with the healing here. You see, while Saturn is working on your subconscious memories, fears, whatever, cleaning up the old karma, self-sabotaging behaviors, Jupiter is giving you almost like a free pass to heal family ancestral pain. Fourth house is the family, the ancestors, some repeating patterns, and as a rule of the eighth house, to transform them. And that happens fast. Because you're also working on your subconscious, even you're working past lives with Saturn in the 12th house, but Jupiter, the ruler of the 8th house of traumas and transformations, comes into the 4th house. You can suddenly heal ancestral karma or like a pattern. Say always everyone in your family gets divorced, and you're like, okay, I realize this now, and overnight you turn this away. So Jupiter will be helping you from July a lot for this inner work. So you see, there is a lot of internal process, home, personal life, enjoying family, working on the subconscious, time alone, working behind the scenes on something. It's not a like fireworks year for Taurus. You have a lot of fireworks with Uranus in your sign for 8 years, you know, like constant surprises. It's not something that Taurus is very comfortable with, the Uranian energy. That's why they say Uranus is in the most painful position in Taurus, because Taurus is about creating stability, being the pillar of society, material constancy and safety. And Uranus is like, I'll give you material stability now. I'll give you constancies, like surprises and slaps left and right for many Tauruses. Some of them might have been very, very joyful, but it's even good stuff when they're sudden. For Taurus, someone with Taurus sun, moon, or rising is destabilizing to the health, to the nervous system, to the mental health. So Uranus is going. I think it's like March, it fully leaves. Uranus is like in a little bit for 3 months there. No, 3, 4 months. Let me see when, but only the last 7 degrees. So if you're Uranus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, 27, 28, 29 degrees. 27, 28, 29 degrees, the last 3 degrees, only you still have Uranus, so something sudden can happen, something out of the blue, something that's shocking. Maybe it's like connected to career because Uranus also is the co-ruler of the 10th house, so with your status. Um, but it leaves, I think, when does it leave? I haven't written here. Well, it leaves very soon, after the first 3 months of the year. It leaves, so suddenly Taurus becomes much more peaceful. That's how you like it. And you need time to recover. So I think God perfectly aligned it for you after the shaking ups of Uranus, the instability, or the exciting new beginnings and shakes. Uranus moves away, never to come back in your life to there. And we have now Jupiter and Saturn in the houses of the subconscious, cleaning up and healing the emotional turbulence, because these are emotional houses, the fourth, starting to settle you down emotionally, starting to anchor yourself emotionally, to heal, you know, especially if you're in some fight or flight or survival states for a few years, for many years, like I gave you an example for me. And it is starting to Jupiter, especially when it enters the fourth house, a lot of healing, a lot of releasing with ease. And this sense of joy and warmth starts coming. And Jupiter starts helping you with mental health as well, making a trine to your 12th house. It will improve. You start feeling more positive, and you'll start feeling this almost like I can, because I'm having Jupiter in the fourth now, this glow in the here. Sometimes I used to love to drink before, and I used to do it for the glow in my stomach because, like, if I was anxious, something, I'll take a beer, and there'll be this warmth and glow in my stomach. And now Jupiter in the fourth house, it's now I feel it that I get naturally this glow, and it's wonderful. So that's why they call it in Vedic astrology the house of happiness, especially when you heal family traumas, when you're at peace with yourself. It's a house of peace, of resting. So you really need this time of peace and resting. That's what I give it as a theme for you for 2026. You have a big mission though. Remember, Pluto, Uranus, you transform your material circumstances. You are entering just now with Pluto in your 10th house into your big mission in your life, how you can change the world, how you can become your own master, your own power, you're empowering yourself, your mission. But Pluto is there 18 years. You first need to heal, rest, or prepare. That's what Jupiter here does. It's good if you want to sell or buy property with Jupiter in your fourth house. It's good if you want to relocate somewhere because, of course, Jupiter is also the role of the eighth house of changes. And you'll find a place that it might happen very fast, like relocation or whatever, or even to foreign places, because Jupiter making trine to the 12th house, uh, or relocation or property. Things will develop within 1 year very quickly for you. Well, I mean, from the middle of 2025, 6 till the middle of 2027, and that emotional healing as well is and this feeling settled and feeling like you belong. But first, there might be some, because Uranus, Jupiter for you is this eighth house sudden change. There might be some sudden change that leads you to finding like what your safe haven is, the place you belong. And I can confirm with Jupiter now in the fourth house from me, I finally don't feel like constantly moving. I'm just enjoying, not relocate. And we decided Jupiter entered my fourth house, and I said, we both said we feel good here. We want to stay here. Yeah, we bought another property, but it's just an hour away. So to spend time in the city from time to time. So not another continent. So there is a sense of settling down and enjoying this inner, your own, how do I call it? Sanctum. Okay. And I have another friend who is Taurus and, Taurus. And she said she's kind of, she's Gemini rising and Taurus. Jupiter passed through her fourth house cusp. Um, Aries rising, Jupiter passed through her fourth house cusp and Taurus sun. And she started spending a lot of time at home and really enjoying it. I said, why don't you go out? Let's go out. Because you go out, well, Jupiter is in your third house, you're more social. When it goes into the fourth house, you really enjoy your alone time more. So there we go for Jupiter. Now we have another switch. Around the same time, Jupiter changes signs. At the end of July, the nodes change sign. The North Node has been since the beginning of 2025 in your 11th house, Taurus, and continues to be there for the first 7 months of the year. And the South Node in your third house. So you see, it's still quite social till June, till July, till the end of July, because Jupiter is in the third house. The North Node, which is a planet of passion, desire, in your 11th house of friendship. So I tell you now, it's time to be more social the first part of 2026. Despite of Saturn going to a 12th house, that you'll gradually go, want to spend more time alone, but now you're building some connections that can last for a very long time. Some friendships or acquaintances, and Rahu there, you can meet foreigners till July, or people from a different background than you, or people that are more ambitious, more successful, from a higher rank, or you can even make your way in some way to groups or organizations, which is the 11th house, that will be beneficial for you. Maybe getting accepted into some club or getting accepted into some online platform or organization where you make very Rahu is very materialistic planet. It wants benefit, not just for kumbaya reason, but for a reason for what can we mutually be beneficial with each other with. Because Rahu is about progress, about gains, about material success, about reputation, prestige. So people that you meet or connect with, they can contribute and mutually possibly, and they can be more ambitious. Of course, Rahu is a bit of a cunning planet, more ambitious, but you can be mutually beneficial to each other. So some benefactor in some sort that is higher standing or more worldly or cooler, whatever stage of life you are. If you're a younger person, you'll be like, oh, you're in the cool crowd now with Rahu in the 11th house. So at your work, oh, these were the cool people. I'm the in crowd now with them, or the ones that the fast climbers, the ones that are hitting, like climbing fast. I'm in with them. This is Rahu in the 11th house. Maybe even disrupting some old friendships, but new ones. Rahu is exciting, new, different entering. While the South Node till July continues to be in your fifth house, where it kind of deprives a little bit of you're kind of more chasing social economic goals, whether it's gains or social or some long-term goals and dreams, which is the 11th house. Rahu really helps you develop that through sheer passion, through sheer desire, through sheer ambition and want to be it. I want to be in those circles, or I want to be in that circle of people that earn this bracket, and you go, and 11th house is your followers, people that uh, clients, if you have a business, followers, you know, so you can expand that. Rahu is a amplifying influence. But you see, you're following, maybe you can achieve easier some socioeconomic goals, and Jupiter is making trines. So the first 7 months, build connections, build following, more clients, follow some business things, connect with others. You can connect, as I said, with the right people, both influences Jupiter and Rahu, North Node, are expanding those social houses for you. Because after that, it gets lonelier. After that, only Saturn in your 12th house, Jupiter in the 4th house, Rahu goes into the 10th house. Your priorities will shift from July onwards, from the middle of the year. So yeah, go as much as you can, connect with as much as many people do. Do your marketing strategies now with Jupiter till July, Jupiter and Rahu in the 11th house, because it's about attracting more people. It's about growing your network, the 11th house. Uh, well, not enough time with the South Node in the fifth house for romantic relationships or hobbies or fun things that you want to do, that's because South Node is more emptying, weakening influence, or more kind of spiritual kind of maybe things. Uh, Plus, there is a couple of eclipses in Pisces and Virgo. So maybe around the lunar eclipse on March the 3rd is at 12 Virgo. And something important around that time, a month before, 2, 3 months after, in your love life, And this full moon is with the South Node, maybe releasing someone or outdated ways of your love life, or completing some creative project, or something with a child, something fated important can happen. And then you have a lunar eclipse in your 11th house on August 28th. So March 12th and August 28th, this is lunar eclipse with the North Node. Um, Even though, yeah, with the North Node in your 11th house, something important about some long-term projects. It's completing it, seeing the results of it, getting rewards, getting 11 houses, getting some bonus, or completing a project, or seeing the next stage of a long-term project, or maybe completing a friendships, or maybe something important comes to you through an acquaintance or associates or through your network, maybe completing a marketing or business project, or something there happening. Maybe even some friendships can end as well. It's actually a lunar eclipse completion. And or maybe something important like finally gaining access to an exclusive group of people, to exclusive group of membership or something like that. Around the eclipse times is usually when those themes of North Node, South Node escalate. But basically, from towards the end of the summer, Rahu moves into Aquarius, the North Node, the South Node, which I've lost because the North South Node is about losing things, disappearing, goes into your fourth house where Jupiter will be as well. But the South Node with Jupiter, it's make it easier to detach for the next 1 year from the summer of 2026 till the summer of 2027 from unhealthy family patterns, to release, forgive, let go, and to detach from places that are not good for you, and to find ones that feel like a soul um, retreat for you almost, because South Node is very soulful and like your haven, your little haven. While the North Node moves from this more social house, whatever connections you made, whatever kind of worldly things, chasing after achievements, recognition, because no, I mean, the 11th house is titles, honors, of some sort, but also Rahu loves being in the 11th house because it pulls one on the social ladder more, through, let's say, through associations that are not necessarily out of altruism, but because they can be useful for you, you know. And then Rahu moves to the 10th house, so eclipses. There will be two eclipses in the 10th and the 4th house as well this year. And one already starts way before Rahu moves to the 10th house. One is in February, 28th of February, 17th of February, at the last 28 degrees. So the later Tauruses will feel this eclipse. It's a new moon eclipse. Even though Rahu is still in Pisces, but the eclipses can be within 15 degrees. And so around February, middle of February 17th, in the next 2, 3, 4 months, it's a sign. New beginnings with Rahu that give you something in your career. 28 degrees, maybe the later degrees of Taurus will feel it stronger. The last 10 degrees. But even earlier Tauruses can, if your midheaven in particular is around those later degrees in Aquarius. And the ancient texts say is that when there is an eclipse on your midheaven or in your 10th house, you can become like a king. So some promotion, some new job, or plus Saturn in the 12th might dissolve an existing job. Ruler of the 10th in the 12th dissolve an existing job, but the North Node, which is always about something new, brings you a new direction, or a new boss, or a new direction in your career, a new project to do. And remember, Jupiter and Pluto and Uranus are in trine the whole 2026 and 2027 and even 20, into your second and eighth house, which already they're working to give you financial freedom and to give you more power and more authentic expression of your career, more truthful Pluto. And this eclipse there starts stirring up stuff. So it's saying new beginning connected to authority figures, with mission, with career possible. And there'll be more eclipses in Aquarius in 2027. So if you don't feel it now, it might be later. Again, I'll tell the story, but when there was an eclipse on my 10th house cusp, exactly from the ascendant, I had this little Astrolada channel, and overnight I became overly ambitious because Rahu in the 10th, when it transits the North Node in the 10th, can make you overly ambitious. What's bad about that? I remember, and what I did is like suddenly I had like 30,000 people following me on YouTube, and I'm like, I'll start working with other astrologers and psychics. And Rahu does it quickly. And I found out 10 people, psychics, checked them, and I said, from now on, Astrolada is 12 people. And suddenly I'm a boss from one man band to a boss, 10 house. And they say you can become positions of authorities or something, or your own boss sometimes. And literally, with Rahu, it can throw you into a position of power before you're ready. That's the energy of Rahu. It's the fake it till you make it energy. But sometimes this is necessary because some people might never do it, but it comes like an opportunity. It's an opportunity, but like, I'm not sure I can do it, but you're thrown into that and you learn to swim after they throw you. Uh, like, who has by birth the North Node? I'll tell you a story. Maybe this will make sense to you. Steven Spielberg. So that's Rahu people. When Rahu transits the 10th house, that you can get big achievements in your career. And that's for you, it's 18-month period, starting from August 2026 till the end of 2027. It's a long period one, and that Rahu gives you frog-like jump, sudden rise. Like I told you, instead of working first with another person to from 1 to 12 people, I'm a boss now. I did not feel it at all. And there was a lot of, because Rahu is like trials and tribulations. You make mistakes and then the passion is so strong that you might make mistakes, but you go and try again and you do it in a different way and you experiment. Rahu is a lot of experimentations, the North Node. And you can decide to experiment with your career or business. And Rahu is also digitalization, new technologies. Let's add in something different. Rahu has a lot of Aquarius energy. In ancient astrology, Rahu rules Aquarius together with Saturn. So Aquarius has this very traditional side through Saturn, very systems, organizations, this very organized side, and then through Rahu, this very chaotic side as well, and this very unconventional, progressive side. That's why it's a very Aquarius and Scorpio, the two most difficult signs, because they're co-ruled by the nodes. The South Node co-ruled Scorpio. But this kind of like sudden rise it can give you through career or sudden change in your career. Interesting, huh? You see, we're adding more layers now. Different cycles are coming. Don't think it's just the Saturn there plowing away in your subconscious. It's this Rahu, it's exciting times when it's in the 10th house. Definitely. Especially 10th from the ascendant, I felt it very strong. Sun and moon, possibly as well. Yeah, possibly. It's maybe not in such palpable way, but it happens as well. And you can be thrown in a new career. And so who has Rahu in the 10th house? Steven Spielberg has it. And you know how he became? Rahu in the 10th is strong desire for some career. He really wanted to be a movie director, but he couldn't. So what did he do? He went to the studios, some studios where they shoot movies. He, without being anybody, he snuck out somehow, make himself an office there, and said he was a director. So he faked it. And for a year, and he learned there on the spot. No one had given him permission. He made connections. So Rahu will get to its goal no matter what. It's not moral. It doesn't care like Saturn to do things morally. Rahu is like opportunistic. Just like Rahu in the 11th house, you can have opportunistic friendships, people that want to be with you because they can benefit, or you being with them because you can mutually benefit, but there's nothing wrong in that as well. Well, Rahu in the 10th house is like, I'll achieve my goal no matter what, even if I have to pretend to be something I'm not. And I have to check where Rahu was in my 10th house, maybe 10th from my sun or the moon. But I remember before I became an astrologer, because I knew astrology, but I was nobody. I printed to myself cards and I was giving to everyone, because back then it was before even YouTube and before even the iPhone, the smartphones. So it was like I would go everywhere and give cards to people. And I was working I was working as a manager in a nightclub, whatever. But I was just going and saying astrologer. I'm astrologer. I was presenting myself. That's how I faked it, and it started happening. So you're allowed with Rahu, fake it, you will make it to whatever, and you're even allowed to be more. It's you can feel like you even go for positions above your head, way above your head, or the universe throws you in something that's way above your head, and you learn to swim there. Well, the South Node in the fourth house, but because Jupiter is there, I think there will be some changes with your home, with your family, but like the career becomes priority and you might have to let go of certain family matters, responsibilities because of chasing those other ambitions. But still, Jupiter in your fourth house guarantees that you have joy at home as well. A needed break, South Node there to switch off while you're at your home, almost like in a meditative state. It allows for spiritual work as well, Saturn in the fourth house. And yeah, the eclipses, one is in February 17th with the North Node eclipse, new beginnings, solar eclipse. These are powerful. It shows over the next 1 year, maybe not exactly on February to change careers, but maybe over the next 1 year. And then there'll be another eclipse in 2027 there if you don't catch the first one. And sometimes eclipses don't do anything, but and then there is a lunar eclipse, again, total solar eclipse in Leo on August the 12th. So August the 12th, the eclipse is here. New beginnings connected to family, place of living, home at 20 degrees. So especially if you're those middle degrees of Taurus, you can feel it very strongly connected to family and to personal, you know, your personal psychological states. All right, now let's go to the smaller cycles that will go there for a few months. The first one is Mars is not going retrograde this year, yay, because that's the more intense, smaller cycle. But Venus goes retrograde in Scorpio and goes retrograde on October the 3rd at 8 degrees Scorpio. So especially the first 10 degrees of Taurus, from 0 to 10 degrees, but all Tauruses, I would give, because Venus goes retrograde in your seventh, will feel it, especially in October. Maybe even, I would say September, because Venus enters already from September, your seventh house, and stays there the whole October. Usually Venus passes for 1 month through a sign. Now it will stay in your house for 2 months, for September, October, then it dips into your sixth house, then it goes back again into your seventh house towards December. Yeah, December, the whole December. So 3 months Venus will stay in your seventh house. So September to December with 2 months in between without a month and something. Yeah, a month into Libra. So yeah, this can be a big thing. So here we have another, and that's by the time already Jupiter is on angle for you, the North Node is on angle, Pluto is there already, and Venus comes on angle. So this can be the busiest time of the year for many of you, because angles is about action, changes, new beginnings. And when angles are activated, the wheel spins, because they're on the cardinal positions, you know, the wheel of fortune spins, but it's a square wheel. So what do we do here? Already from September, especially strongly in October, something about relationships, other people, especially the first 10 degrees of Taurus. You might what's that called? Renegotiate certain contracts. Maybe you realize that there's something unfair there. Maybe someone is taking too much from you. Maybe a business partner is not doing enough or is doing something dodgy. I don't know, Scorpio energy, or you find out something about the partner. Maybe they've been spending money, or I don't know, something they might have been doing. You find out something. Scorpio is about secrets as well. And sorry, my dad. And around that time, or some unsaid things in relationships can come up, or from others. They can approach you, tell you secrets or whatever, or share with you something more intimate. Scorpio is a very intimate sign. That doesn't mean it will turn your life around, but you might be dealing with such topics. someone sharing confidential information, or maybe someone needing your loving care, Venus, loving attention, support. Or maybe somehow Venus rules you, you might be involved more in relationships. And even from September, October, maybe because first Venus is direct, a new relationship might come. Then when it goes retrograde, you kind of are trying to reconsider and say, okay, let's make the rules different. Maybe you realize the habits of a already existing relationship, usually, because when it goes retrograde from October, means something that's already existing, but it must have started at least a little bit earlier. Uh, is or might be a long-standing relationship, and you start reconsidering how you do things together. And you say, okay, these will be your responsibilities are mine, or let's agree. And you can make a relationship much more harmonious. By the end of December, you might find, even if there was some little crisis there in a relationship and you have to change something, because Scorpio is about transformations and you have to change something, you need to make it more fair, Venus, more equal. If the relationship is both sides are willing to do it, there is much more depth and connection and love by December. You'd feel much more connected. So even if you go through some kind of a shakeup in relationship, don't forget Venus is a beneficial planet for you. Venus is a planet of, it rules you, and it's naturally a good planet. It's naturally a benefic, so it really wants to make things fair. So maybe you can end up a contract that you don't think is fair, or you might be released from a contract where you're not putting your weight or some obligation with another, because Venus rules your sixth house as well, which is obligations to others might end if you already paid your dues there in some way. This obligation can, the retrograde planet make you realize, I don't need to be in this contract, in this partnership, in this business relationship, or maybe I don't want these clients that I work with, or maybe some kind of honing, or maybe improving the terms and conditions and upgrading the relationship. If it's a good relationship, it will be upgraded and become much more fair, nicer, more intimate, more connected. If it's not a fair relationship and your side or the other side doesn't want to compromise, which is the word for Venus, that's where the shakeup happens. Yeah, sometimes I've seen people separate with Venus retrograde as well. We're talking romantic relationship, marriages, and so on. But that's only for good. Venus really wants to help you, and you'd realize it yourself because you're Venus. But also it can be just like you started a new relationship and then you see and you kind of re-agree, or you explore some things that you didn't explore before, or maybe come back to old topics in your relationship. Doesn't mean to fight over them, maybe to heal them, maybe to, or maybe you reassess old relationships. You just start thinking more about past boyfriends, girlfriends, marriage partners, business partners. And I've seen many times an old business partnership or collaboration comes back to create a new project. So new things can be started during Venus retrograde only if you've already had a contact before with this person. Or I've seen boyfriends, girlfriends, partners come back to be restarted. I always give this example. Venus was retrograde in my seventh house one summer. It was wonderful summer. I came back and I ended up spending the whole 10 days. I was in Bulgaria with two ex-boyfriends hanging out. And because things didn't end well with us, years ago, and when we became a group who were hanging out together with other people, and that was a healing phase. And I forgave them like within myself, and they both showed interest again, but I was like, no, no, no. But it's kind of like, oh, you see, uh the guy from the mall, and it's like, oh, who is already losing hair, overweight, and you're like, so glad why was I idolizing this person? It doesn't mean just appearances, or you can just heal a relationship that wasn't doing well because you have more intimate contact, or you see things. A retrograde planet is for you to see things from a different perspective, from a different state of consciousness. So it breaks the pattern again. But yeah, sometimes it is actual relationships leaving and so on. Um, So that's it. And then Venus, for most of November, dips into your sixth house retrograde. Here it's maybe about some work projects or social activities with colleagues, or you diving in into work project that needs your attention to edit it, to redo it, some already existing work project, or rethinking maybe the priorities and what's valuable in your everyday routines, and thinking maybe I should, maybe I'm spending too much time on emails. That's because Venus is very good at evaluating what is worth putting my time in. Venus is um it's like the balance. And you say, okay, maybe I'm spending too much time on emails, or maybe I can rethink here. Maybe I can you start seeing the efficiency is not as good. Maybe I should automate some services and use some digital AI. Why am I saying that? Because Uranus, Rahu, is in your 10th house of career as well, Venus in the 6th house of work, that in the autumn retrograde. And Rahu is about innovations, Rahu is about digital technologies, automating stuff to be faster. So you can think, oh, here the process is a bit staggered, is a bit stagnant of my work. Maybe I can upgrade it. So the Venus starts getting you into thinking and into reevaluating. Or maybe you're completing an old project, of some sort. Or maybe you're rethinking, do I want this job actually? Do I really want it, or do I really enjoy it? Because Venus is love, and you as Taurus, you need, and Libra ruling your sixth house of work, you need to love your daily routines of work to stay in it. You need to have like a good relationship with it. If it's inharmonious relationships, if it's toxic relationship, Libra doesn't tolerate that. It wants balance, harmony. And if you see, you might see some imbalances because Venus retrogrades is in with your colleagues in your work environment. And it might be as simple as my office is not as beautiful, it's not conductive to inspiration, or it's not conductive to feeling comfortable and redoing your office or home office, even, I don't know, making it more appealing because Venus is beauty, harmony, or organizing it better, organizing your work in a different way. Or it might be like, okay, there's no harmony with me and my colleagues. Let's address that in a diplomatic way, Venus. Let's see, and if it doesn't work, you can be like, okay, this is toxic environment, or I'm not sure I really love this job, or I'm not sure I really love this project. It might be just a project, not a whole job. And then the North Node in your 10th house says, let's do a new one. The North Node is like, okay, excited, ambitious for maybe there is a better option. So you see kind of the energy, and Venus is making um, so Uranus, you see how the second part of the year, the focus becomes more practical, material work as well. There's some love thing here as well in the sixth house, but because sixth and seventh are next to each other, maybe topics of sorting out imbalances in relationships, inequalities. Six houses in inequality. So you're trying to fix it in a relationship so it's more fair in some way. Or it might be that you're working on some Venusian project because six houses work, and you might be like, what can be like beautifying something, clothes project, sixth house, according to some astrologers, is to do with our clothing, maybe working on some clothes repair project. I don't know, maybe working on some artistic work project, Venus. Or maybe working kind of, you need to do some collaboration type of things, 7 6 house collaboration work. Venus project can be music, art, beauty, but sixth house is also health, and Venus rules your first house, which is also the physical body. You might start noticing some health issues for some of you, especially if you haven't had a good health routine. Maybe you walk like that, maybe you spend too much time on the phone like that, and start the back, because Libra, where Venus is the back of the back, that's your sixth house where you can have more problems. The kidneys, the back, if some such kind of a recurring thing appears, or issue with kidneys, back, or some other health issue as well, can be with sugar. Venus rules sugar and sweet stuff as well, with the sugar, blood sugar as well. it's time to rethink, your routines. And of course, a retrograde planet allows you to see things from a different perspective and to see how they can be done differently. So, and Venus will allow you to actually enjoy doing this new health routines or different health routines. Well, Venus is a planet of pleasure. Maybe it's just about swapping sugar, which is very Venusian, with honey or with agave. Or it can be something very small that you change in your everyday routines, that you experiment with, that you revise and say, okay, I can change that. And Venus turns direct on the 13th of November in your sign, in your Libra. So that's after that when you can apply after the 13th of November those new health things after you've examined what you can change, new supplement, new workout that you enjoy. Just adding up a smoothie, something tasty, Venus, adding on something tasty to your health routine. Or some, and this is not like health routine like I go to play tennis because I enjoy to play tennis. No, this is like you do some health routine because of your health. um, it's like maybe starting walking or playing tennis for health reasons because it's in Libra, but you enjoy it. It will turn into pleasure because Venus is part of this process. So, yeah, that can be one of the best way it plays out. Um, and if there are some complications with colleagues or at work project being delayed or having to be redone after November, the middle of November, Venus starts turning direct in your sixth house. So you start seeing the good results of the efforts you've put or the corrections that you've made, or things are not as unpredictable anymore and start running more according to your expectations. Um, yeah, that's about Venus retrograde. So yeah, it's important because there's like this focus in the autumn and to the winter. So the basically the autumn months, September, October, November, December, into the sixth and the seventh house. It's a small cycle, whether it's your health or your work and routines, whether it's your relationships or some combination between work and relationships, some kind of sixth, seventh house can be court cases. Sometimes sixth house is litigation, and I don't know. I hope not, but there is a chance that you can solve it without a battle for good for you, because Venus is without a battle. If someone starts accusations towards you during that time, another person, or trying to uh, entice you into some kind of a legal matter, stay away from that or solve it with Venus matters. Solve it with collaboration, with negotiation type of thing out of court, because Venus is not about battle. Uh, but even if there is some situation of tension between you and others, again, only diplomacy will help you. And after November the 13th, it starts resolving. And now I want to look at the Mercury retrograde periods. They always happen 3 to 4 times per year. These are very small cycles of about 1 2 months, especially more intensely 1 month. But this time, all Mercury retrograde periods are happening in social houses for you. First in February, most of February, and most of March, sorry, 26th of February to March the 20th. Mercury is retrograde in your 11th house. You can reevaluate some friendships. You can just remove some people from your social media, or you can get back with friends you haven't seen before. It can be as simple as that, or maybe some uh, meetings or some kind of a plans with friends can be a little bit, or with colleagues can be disrupted or have to be reorganized, or some business plans, 11th houses business plans need to be re-examined, redone, or some long-term goal project, you might have to work on it with your skills a bit, redo it, or gets put delayed a little bit. Uh, because if you work with people, like I work with a lot of people, and now I had Mercury retrograde the last 2 years, always in my social houses, like you. Usually, social houses are about business, working with others, uh, because these are most of my social life is with the people I work with. How's that? But usually it's either friends coming back when Mercury goes retrograde in your social houses. So that's March, that's July, that's November. Big part, the three retrograde periods. A majority of them are March, from the end of February, 26th of February. The other one is June 29th to July 23rd. So the majority of July, Mercury is retrograde in your third house, and the majority of November, from October 24th till November 13th, Mercury is retrograde, is also, well, Venus in the sixth is retrograde in your seventh house. So all social houses with others. So I noticed the last years when I had this Mercury retrograde, first of all, it's more social years. You see? So it's not again just about isolation. Even when, especially the first part of the year when Rahu is in social houses, Jupiter, connections, contacts, business, working with others, rethinking who you want, who you don't want, making new friendships, and so on. And Mercury, the first Mercury retrograde is also here in February, in March. So yeah, maybe old friends connecting, or maybe this is also business house, some projects. And I also noticed that my projects, when I work with people, when Mercury goes retrograde in the social houses, they, like with my IT specialists, they're always busy with something else. So kind of the projects get where you have to collaborate with someone, work one-on-one or in a group, always gets delayed. Or like, or we always find out some problem that we have to work out in a group. It's like, okay, or one-on-one. I'm like, oh, this is not working, can you do it? We kind of start fixing problems then. But it's great because by the time the Mercury retrograde finishes, I'm like, I'm so glad this problem cropped up, because now we fixed it and we did it better. We made it even more efficient. Mercury is very much like Virgo, about efficiency, kind of better organization, better flow of, communication and so on. But sometimes when Mercury goes retrograde in the social houses, there is a breakdown of communication. It is possible. Like, he said that, or what, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat it? Or like you have meetings, they fall through. So if you're planning things with people, especially March till the 20th something, when was it? Till March the 20th, till July 23rd, until November 13th, know that if you're doing something with someone, even if meeting for a coffee, even if having a lesson with someone, there will be a lot of, someone didn't turn up to the meeting, someone misunderstood, someone can't make it, cancellations and such things. It's very minor cycle. Just sometimes it feels frustrating, but it can be a very busy time of you tying up all the ends, correcting some things, uh, improving existing relationships by speaking about things that were buried before, bringing them to the surface. When Mercury is retrograde in the 11th house, it can be with friends, third house with siblings and relatives, or maybe some missing documents or papers, or fixing some phones or car repairs or internet disruptions and so on. This third house is about, okay, business meetings as well. This is in July. But the one you feel probably the most is when Mercury goes retrograde exactly opposite you, the November one. And remember, Venus is also retrograde in, actually, when Venus goes retrograde in Libra, Mercury joins it, but it's, you know, and while it's still in Libra, it moves and they're retrograde for a few days together in your sixth house. Again, this November month is can be when it can be a bit more intense, let's say. A bit more stressful. Two retrograde planets, Venus and Mercury, their sixth house, some deadlines, some work, whatever. But Mercury goes retrograde in your seventh house, exactly opposite you on October 24th. So yeah, October 24th, they meet retrograde here at the end of October with Venus. Venus is retrograde, Mercury is retrograde. They meet here in your sixth house, the end of October. That's when it feels more stressful time, but also you can solve some work problems, some important conversations, some health realizations, health decisions, some important retrograde planet is very potent, you know, that you can apply after that, or it just starts changing your mind, your subconscious there. But here most of the time, it doesn't come back to thing, but I think Venus is retrograde with Scorpio. Just give me a moment. Oh, sorry, not the sixth house, but they meet together. Mercury is still there, is Venus is retrograde, Mercury is still direct. They meet in your seventh house already in October. So yeah, the focus will be much more about the seventh house as well. So Mercury retrograde in the seventh house, it's retrograde in the degrees are 26, sorry, where is November? 5 degrees, 25 till 20 degrees, Scorpio. So if you're Taurus, 5 till 20 degrees Scorpio, you can feel the most retrograde period of the year, that November, basically, the end of October and November. So there is like the whole October and November, there is this theme of relationships here, renegotiating again. You see the very similar to Venus being retrograde here in Scorpio. They're running kind of parallel one after another. Venus goes to the sixth, then Mercury goes retrograde here. But still, they keep examining relationships, contracts, or maybe working with people one on one, or which clients you want to leave. Some might go, or some important conversations with a partner, some changes in their life that you might have to support them through. Some important decisions you take together in a partnership, so who you partner with. This is, and sometimes it might not even be about partnerships, is that others, meetings with others get like confused, canceled, um, and you decide, who do I want, who do I don't want to communicate with. um, but it can just be more retrograde period, this Mercury retrograde, the October and 24th till November the 13th, where, like, let's say, have plan B always, especially in business, in meetings. If you're dependent on other people in some way, you can expect that they might have different opinions, or they might not be there when you want, or you might not. So those kind of stuff, just anything Mercury retrograde is the most potent for you around that time. But again, I've always noticed years when Mercury is retrograde in my social houses, after some frustrations with work and working with other people, always I get much like the business, the work, the business, because business especially is about sales, which is all third, seventh, fifth, if you're in any kind of work which is about sales, which is about reaching other people, clients, working with others one-on-one, and a lot of job works and office works like that, then there's a very successful years, because of the contacts you make, because of the you correct the communication, you improve it, you upgrade it. Yes, it's frustrating when you have to face the problem and upgrade and change the communication, because we always like to do things we've always done with others, but it's necessary after going through this communication issue. Definitely for business, I've seen it, it's quite strong months for that, the retrograde periods, for a couple of months for Mercury, the shadow, the retrograde. And for personal relationships, you see how there is a lot of people like contacting you from the past. And maybe that's working in with Saturn in the 12th house, that is wanting you to complete a phase, to think about the past, to ruminate, to chip away from the pain from the past, to be free and freed from it. And like Mercury retrograde in social houses, putting you in touch with other people, might be just exactly what, here, my friends, might be exactly what it's helping in that process. And sometimes people come and help you, like many times. Now, every time Mercury went retrograde in one of my third, seventh, or 11th house, either a friend would contact me that I haven't seen for a couple of years and I'll meet them, or either someone that I work for. And I work with many people, but we haven't worked for a long time, a year or two. They contact me, we make a project together, a video, some kind of stuff like that, or sometimes access. That's also part of it. Anyway, that's about it for the Venus smaller cycles and Mercury smaller cycles retrograde. What about Uranus, Pluto? We talked a lot about that. We talked what Pluto in the 10th house wants to do for you. But who is going to be most affected by Pluto? Um, Pluto in the 10th house wants to empower you. I mean, like, I came to power through my work. And truly, I felt it like power when Pluto was in my 10th house. It was not an easy process. Pluto makes a square to your sign, but you truly find your power. And Pluto will square those Tauruses that have their sun from 2 till 6 degrees or moon or ascendant 2 till 6. It's done already with the first, with the 0 degree, with the second degree. Now it's like from the second degree onwards, especially third, fourth, fifth, sixth degrees. This is where Pluto is working. It's going to be more intense for those Tauruses. I think these are Tauruses born on, I don't know, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th of April, very early if it's your sun. So when Pluto squares your sun, sometimes there can be power struggles with authority father figures. For me, it was when it squared my sun. And actually, that's when I really claimed my power. The government, it was on lockdown. And I went against it. And I was like, I felt it like it was a personal attack on me. And I started speaking out because I've always had very powerful father who controlled me, who tell everything how to do. And I said, I'm not going to let the government now control me. And there is a bit of rebellion in Aquarius Pluto as well. So you might rebel against some force of power, those degrees with the sun, there, or the ascendant, or the moon as well. If someone is trying to control you or something, there can be this power struggle. My power struggle was not with one particular person, which was interesting enough. It was with the whole institution, the whole deep state. And it didn't. I took it so personally that even my health got affected. I started developing like anxiety and so on. Uh, but this is what you face your biggest fears when Pluto squares the sun, and you realize it's not as scary. And you pass it and you say, I can survive no matter what. And it's transformation. It's a very big transformation where you claim your power, especially if you've had a dominating of power, or especially if you're someone who is like shrinking of their own power. You claim it back, but it's not an easy process. It's about 2 years. And that's when my career really took off, when Pluto squared my sun. And to be honest, I kind of went against the government and what was I was talking about the danger of those lockdowns and the danger of the medications that were given, because I could see astrologically there was an eclipse in the tail of the scorpion, and I have to warn the people. So I like, you can do some dangerous stuff with Pluto squaring your sun, but because you can't tolerate not the truth. And you can't tolerate bullies and people that oppress you. You might go against a boss, against a father figure, against something like that. These are only the very first degrees of Taurus that I speak about. If you have a Taurus friend born on the 14th of April, 15th of April, ask them, because they already went through Pluto square as their sun also. But this is where uh, you face the dark side of life. And for me, I faced it through the deep government, through conspiracies. Like when Pluto is around, you really get fascinated by the power of dynamics, who controls you, what controls you. And you want to claim power back in no matter what ways you can. And I realized, yes, I can, even if the beast system comes and whatever. I developed those 2 years, how am I going to survive? So it's like change my life. We went to live in the countryside. We have a garden to grow our vegetables. We live near vegetable producers and so on. I'm just giving you my story, because you can feel like overpowered sometimes with Pluto, like a force that is way beyond your power. When Pluto in the 10th house is trying to control you, is trying to tell you what to do. And with Pluto transit, you have to remember it's in the Bible, how Jesus or the Bible said you should deal with evil, because there is evil, or you should deal with imbalanced energy, let's say it with modern terms. With evil, you should be as smart as a snake, as peaceful as a dove, as gentle as a dove, as gentle as a dove, as smart as a snake. It's not an open battle, because Pluto is the stronger planet on the 10th house. If it squares your sun, moon, or ascendant, you but you don't want to become manipulative as well, but you find ways, and you're patient, and you, like Pluto is like Scorpion, it waits in an ambush, it waits to see the weakness of the enemy, because the enemy might be powerful, and then you strike or then you make your plan. And it's very intense and passionate period as well, those early Tauruses. I mean, it's not gonna be calm or like like for the rest of the Tauruses, those 12 houses, they have an actual things happening. Their career can transform if it's there. And that's when my career transformed a lot. And I antagonized a lot of people with my opinions. Like I think I lost 20,000 subscribers and followers because of my beliefs and speaking out those things. Uh, but I gained 40,000 new ones or 100,000. So you shouldn't be afraid. So it's Pluto comes to make you overcome your fears from whatever you think you're battling, or overcome your fears from the dark. You overcome your biggest vulnerabilities because Pluto, it's about empowering you, and you dare try other stuff, and you're forced to, and you see there's always a way out. There's just a transformation. So I transformed from this really light astrologer during that time. Oh, Mars in your fifth house, you're gonna have sporty boyfriends, blah blah, to like this political, almost to this very passionate, intense. Now I calm down. Pluto's not squaring me. I'm back to, oh, your boyfriend will be. But I went through that because I was also afraid to state yourself. Pluto in the eighth, 10th house will ask you to state yourself when squares the sun, to claim your power. And so I transformed my career a lot, how I worked. Um, there were some very powerful people in my life as well that entered. I was in this invisible battle with the government. A bit paranoid. It's true, Pluto can be paranoid. Uh, but it was right because many people got very injured. Even my mother-in-law got a myocarditis from the. No matter how much I tried to convince her, don't take it, don't take it. I was fighting with. I was like Pluto. I was trying to change everyone around me. Like you get some passionate about something. For you, it might be that you get very passionate about the work or career, and you Pluto makes you gather, if it's your sun, makes and the ascendant as well, makes you gather your willpower in a very focused, concentrated way, like a laser towards something and overcome even unsurmountable difficulties. I thought a lot about death as well. And Pluto is, I would notice it, a lot of people have like this sense of gloom sometimes, the sense of something is about to happen, something I was expecting during this 2 3 years of Pluto square, like okay, now the financial system's gonna collapse. Now it's and a lot of things kept happening. It didn't collapse, but we had a big impact. So you kind of like you expect the other shoe to fall, or you feel like some storm is coming, and it might be just an internal storm. Some people have no external changes when Pluto transits their Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. Seriously, but there is some inner big transformation that happens because it's a very subtle planet, subtle and sometimes ruthless. If you've abused power, now that can be very, very difficult for you because Pluto, if someone has abused power, Pluto square the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant from the 10th house, those first degrees, like we said, 2 to 6 is when this power, when you get on the receiving end, where your power can be taken. Say you're a boss who takes the credit for other people's work, you know, or you've taken advantage of others in some way. This is abuse of power. You try to tell others what to do. Well, there'll be a big battle against you now, and plus they'll be like suddenly falling from grace or falling from uh, positions of authority or respect. Uh, but if you're like me, I'm the opposite. I never abuse power. I'm always the abused. You claim your power back. So what Pluto tries to do is like rebalance where the power of control, whatever is too extreme. And there can be more feelings of jealousy, especially towards the moon, square the moon, the ascendant, because it will square if it's your ascendant at 2 degrees, because it will square the seventh house. So those 2 to 6 degrees, there can be some power struggles with the partner. I'm having it right now, right on my ascendant, even more intense, but this time nothing, seriously. Nothing like that. It's interesting. Now I don't feel Pluto. It's mostly about my health now that I'm working out and so on. But back then it was truly more intense on the sun. But yeah, with the ascendant and the moon, it's more like emotionally very turbulent, intense feelings that you're like, whoa, I didn't thought that was like that. I thought I was this chill, cool person, and I'm like having these deep feelings and because you become passionate about something, if there's especially some imbalance, Pluto helps you correct it. And it can end up relationships, those 2 to 6 degrees, if they're out of balance, because they become even more extremely out of balance. You, the partner, can become even more like uh, extreme, and it can end. Or it can just have some power struggles, and then you balance it out. You, if there is loving relationships, or not the toxic ones, or they can remove toxic relationships with clients as well if it's your ascendant or moon. If it's your moon, you can transform your health, you can transform your habits. It's easier during month. And of course, there is the topic of deaths, births, and pregnancies. So deaths, births, pregnancy. In some way, you can notice this more in your life. Maybe not you dying. It's not. It's usually fear of you dying. There is this thing which is almost like what triggers you to make the transformation, whether health-wise, or like you feel in a toxic environment, you can't stand it anymore, sense like if I don't change this, I'll die, or some big crisis will happen. And if you're very stubborn, which you might be, sometimes a crisis can happen to get you out of a toxic situation or circumstance in your life. But believe me, I'm so grateful for this transit. It was the transit that made me own my power, and that transformed me into more ruthless, but ruthlessly speaking my truth. And for you, it might be the transit that pushes you to find a new career, that you're empowered, transit that makes you find a new relationship if it's your moon or ascendant that is authentic, and so on. Or just kind of transform you as well. And you might just notice that you're more interested in Plutonian things. It might be the occult, it might be in crime shows. Sometimes it was as simple because Pluto is 2 years. And yeah, I had some Pluto square my sun because the sun rules seventh house. I had two ex long-term relationship partners. They passed away during that time. They weren't my current partner, thanks God, but past ones. But yeah, there was this topic of people passing away. There was a topic of COVID, people passing away of vaccine and so on. But there's also the topic of being pregnant. I was pregnant then, and so on. So it's not doom and gloom. And there was just a lot of times because it's a 2 year period, and the hit continues for 1, 2 months, most intense, to the exact degree, and then comes back to it 7, 8 months later. But during the in between times, was more like I was more interested in reading about conspiracies or researching stuff, going down psychology. Psychology is ruled by Pluto. The occult, astrology. Very, if you're in any Plutonian field of work, this can make you. If you're, say, for example, in petrol, or if you're in anything to do with banking, other people's resources, investments. If you're in secret services, if you're in the police force, or kind of Plutonian careers as astrology, the occult, emergency services. This can be really the best, one of the most high rising periods of your career. And then we said Uranus is going to try to give you financial freedom. We talked a lot about it, but it's not making any aspects to it. It can also change and again, Uranus is change how you eat. For me, Uranus transiting the second from the sun was I learned to eat 1 meal per day. That was the best thing ever. Sporadic. Maybe your eating habits can be more erratic. You can experiment with how you eat. And I started cooking Asian food. Uranus is something unusual. I've been like, my kids like, what? Tom yum soup again? Like, it's like there's like a lot of Asian food here, but Uranus can break your habits, suddenly change your taste, your habits, what you consider beautiful, attractive foods, and so on. Pluto, we said what we're doing. And Neptune, we talked about. It's in your 12th house. It wants to, for many, for 14 years, and it's not expecting you. It wants to make you, to spiritualize you, to attune you to the invisible world after Saturn makes a cleanup there. So now let's do our summary, Taurus. Nothing is directly affecting you. Uranus is moving just the last 3 months, the first 3 months, and the last 3 degrees of Taurus. Little bit still shaky, but after that it moves and everything becomes peaceful suddenly, much more peaceful. No out of the blue, sudden, unexpected, very like that turned your life 180 degrees. Yes, there'll be eclipses in your 10th house. You can make changes about career direction. Yes, there'll be Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde in your 7th house towards the end of the year. But that's more like small cycle things that is much more easy to control than Uranus, much more easy to solve. With Uranus, is you have no choice. So, and you're left to the first 7 months, it's much more social, good for business, for contacting, communicating with others. Then Jupiter moves to the fourth house, so it becomes a bit more, and the North Node moves to the 10th house, so the focus comes more on work, on worldly duties, and home and family, plus healing the internal, resting more with Saturn in the 12th house, internal work, or and then we have the Mercury retrogrades in your 7th house, which is kind of more, again, relationship related towards the autumn. So there you go. Come back to this many times as you want. Check it out. But the biggest news is Uranus is leaving your sign. Yeah, I could have summarized this video. Uranus is leaving your sign. Things will be much more peaceful. There'll be new opportunities in your career. North Node in the 10th house. You can make some, instead of doing this whole spiel, but I don't know. I think maybe you need it a bit more. And maybe you'll get a new home with Jupiter in the fourth house. Bye bye. Thank you so much.